Novak reacts to Sinner's stunning win. Djokovic's hopes of winning a record-extending 25th Grand Slam title with an 11th title at Melbourne Park were dealt a fatal blow in the semi-final last Friday as he slumped to an uncharacteristic defeat against Jannik Sinner. The nature of the loss was surprising to many, as the world. No one didn't have a single break point on the Sinner serve as he lost 1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-7, 5, 3, 6. The loss in the tournament itself took a lot out of Djokovic. Naturally, after the match, he was questioned about his future, with many believing he could be in the final stages of his glorious career. Asked if his motivation remains intact, Djokovic told Serbian media, as per Tennis Majors, "Let's see how things will unfold in the future. When you leave the court after a loss, the head is still hot. You are fighting to be rational, but there are many irrational thoughts going through your head. I want my thoughts to settle. When I calm down, I will move on and see what tournaments I will play." As per tradition, the tennis legend will take a break after the season-opening Grand Slam, and it was initially anticipated he would return at the Abu Dhabi Tennis Championships in late February. But his name remains missing from the entry list, and there have been suggestions he could extend his layoff and only return for the Sunshine Double, the Indian Wells Open and Miami Open in March. One thing is clear, though, Djokovic's main focus will be the biggest tournaments this year, with the French Open, Wimbledon, Paris Olympics, and US Open high on his agenda. He added, "I made a commitment to myself that I will give it my all this year, with the priority being slams and the Olympics. We'll see whether something will change. In this stage of my life and my career, some surprising decisions are maybe more expected compared to 20 years ago." Djokovic was never at the race during his match against Sinner, but he insists he was happy with his usual pre-match routine, as things just didn't click on the day. "Yes, everything I usually do to be at my best on the court. Different factors contributed to the way I played," he said. "I was far from my usual level throughout the tournament. Sinner played great and imposed himself. The conditions were a bit different since I normally play in the evening in the final stages of the tournament. It's sports. It happens. I'm sorry I played such a bad match. At the end of the day, I got outplayed. No excuses. I shake Jannik's hand, say well done to him." Since the final months of last season, the evolution of Jannik Sinner has been undeniable. His game has become increasingly well-rounded. He has carried himself with a newfound toughness, and most important, he has learned how to win consistently over a long period of time. The lingering question was whether he was truly ready for the ultimate challenge of facing Novak Djokovic under suffocating Grand Slam pressure. In a tension-filled encounter on Rod Laver Arena, Sinner answered without hesitation. After showing his quality by dominating the opening sets, the fourth seed demonstrated his supreme resilience by recovering from a missed match point to topple a subpar Djokovic 6-1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-6, 3, and reach a Grand Slam final for the first time in his young career. "It was a very, very tough match," said Sinner. "I started off really well. He missed for 2 sets. I felt like he was not feeling that great on court. I just tried to keep on pushing." With this monumental victory, Sinner ends one of the all-time great streaks at any tournament. He is the first player to defeat Djokovic, the top seed and defending champion, at Melbourne Park since Hyeon Chung in 2018, a streak that of 33 consecutive wins. The Italian is also the first player to ever defeat Djokovic at the semi-final stage or onwards at the Australian Open, with the Serb previously compiling a 10-0 record in semi-finals. Having been outplayed in their first 3 meetings, Sinner has also now beaten Djokovic in 3 of their last 4 matches. "It's always nice to have this kind of player where you can learn from," said the 22-year-old. "I lost last year in the semis in Wimbledon, so I think I learned from that. It's all part of the process." It was clear before the tournament that of all the players who could stare Djokovic down and potentially pull off a monumental victory, Sinner had a chance as good as any. That sentiment was only bolstered by his spectacular form through the rounds. After ending last season by defeating Djokovic in the group stages of the ATP Finals and then en route to Italy's Davis Cup triumph, Sinner has been on fire. He reached his first Australian Open semi-final without dropping a set. The one time his path could have become complicated, he responded to a 1, 5 deficit in the second-set tiebreak against Andrei Rublev in the quarterfinals by reeling off 6 points in a row. The belief was present from the very beginning of the semifinal as Sinner exploded out of the blocks, playing at the top of his level. In the frantic physical exchanges that unfolded, it was the Italian who dictated the points from on top of the baseline, demolishing the ball off both wings and effortlessly changing directions. Djokovic had no time whatsoever. He was constantly a millisecond late to the ball, always off balance and unable to hold off Sinner as the Italian tore through the opening set. While the fourth seed's suffocating aggression clearly affected the form Djokovic produced, the reality for the defending champion after 2 sets was grim. He had been utterly dire. His serve had disintegrated, errors flowed freely from his racket as his movement looked labored from the beginning. As he trailed by 2 sets, Djokovic had struck 11 winners to 29 unforced errors. Having hit rock bottom, Djokovic's level could only improve. Throughout the third set, he began to hit his spots on serve and found more joy in the longer rallies as he held on to force a tiebreak. Still, Sinner forged on, and he generated his first match point on his opponent's serve at 6-5 in the tiebreak. The Italian forced his way in control of the exchange before dumping a nervous forehand into the net. As he has done so many times in his career, Djokovic rose to the occasion and took the match to a 4th set. As Sinner took a significant step forward, Djokovic departed Melbourne Park, having endured an unusual experience. Defeat was always a possibility against a player with Sinner's talent, but the manner of the loss was shocking. Aside from a few fleeting moments in the third set, his level was inexplicably poor, and he was never really in the match. His performance was summed up by a stat he will hope to never repeat. This is the first time in Djokovic's career that he has failed to generate a single breakpoint in a best-of-5 sets match. This tournament hasn't been up to my standard or criteria, or the level that I would normally play or expect myself to play, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's beginning of the end, as some people like to call it, said Djokovic. Let's see what happens in the rest of the season. A measure of Sinner's newfound mental toughness came by his immediate response to the missed opportunity. In other years and against other players, Djokovic would have almost certainly come steaming back. But Sinner immediately shook off his despair, re-established his dominance inside the baseline, and he rolled through the 4th set, holding his nerve at the close to snatch a career-altering victory. Now, let's uncover some of the standout statistics from Jannik Sinner's stunning win. Sinner has become the youngest Australian Open finalist and winner since 2008, when Djokovic won his first title aged 20 years and 250 days. Sinner ended Djokovic's record-equaling unbeaten run of 33 matches at the Australian Open, inflicting his first loss more than 6 years on from a 4th-round exit against Chung Hyeon in 2018. After losing his first 3 matches against Djokovic, Sinner has now won 3 of the last 4 meetings against the world number 1. Sinner is the first Italian player in history to reach an Australian Open singles final in the Open era. He has reached his first Slam final, 6 months after winning his first major quarterfinal at the 5th attempt at Wimbledon, meaning that his frequency of appearing at the later stages of Grand Slam events appears to be increasing. For the very first time in his career, Djokovic failed to create a single break point in a completed match at a Grand Slam. In his post-match news conference, Sinner was questioned about his modest reaction after ousting Djokovic, but at that time, the Italian simply did not believe he had anything to celebrate just then. Obviously, it means so much to me to beat Novak here in Melbourne. But in another way, I know that the tournament is not over, Sinner explained. Sunday is a final. It's different emotions because the final is always different. It doesn't really matter how big the tournament is. In my mind, today I knew it was a semi-final. It's not that you win the tournament like this, so I'm looking forward for Sunday, and let's see what's coming. Of course, Sinner's first-time Australian Open victory was achieved this year, with the Italian defeating 2-time runner-up Daniil Medvedev in a 5-set epic final thriller, after the Russian third seed came back from 2 sets down to defeat Alexander Zverev in the semifinals. While Sinner lost his first 6 matches against 2021 US Open champion Medvedev, he has since won the last 4, with each of those victories coming since October 2023. Sinner hopes the victories over Djokovic and Medvedev will contribute to a growing belief among the new generation of men's players aiming to replace the era-defining trio of Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal, and mean that Sinner is closing in on world number 3 in the men's rankings, behind Djokovic, Alcaraz, and Medvedev. What I think we have in common is we believe in ourselves, and this helps a lot, because in tennis, when you believe, it's a huge amount already, Sinner said. I'm really relaxed, to be honest. I just try to work as hard as possible, and in my mind, I feel like the hard work always pays off in one way. We are working really hard for our dreams. Thank you for watching today's special episode about the Djokovic's uncharacteristic Australian Open semi-final defeat at the hands of Jannik Sinner in 2024. Stay tuned to Forehand Frenzy for more insights and updates into the lives of tennis's most iconic figures. Until then, keep swinging those forehands, and we'll see you on the court.